Hi, my name's Rob, and today I'm going to show you how to tumble beach rocks in a National Geographic Tumbler. I have lots of tumbling experience. I've been doing this for about 10 years, but this will only be my third batch in the National Geographic Tumbler. If you missed my other videos, I did one batch where I followed the directions and failed miserably, which I thought I would. And then I did the second batch where I used my own methods and they came out pretty good, except where the rocks got a little bit banged up because this turned so fast. So hopefully it doesn't bang these up too much, but we're going to find out. So what I've got here is a bunch of rocks that I found in the eastern UP. These were all found in various videos I did earlier this summer. And what I'm going to do is put them in this little National Geographic barrel. And one of the questions that I get is, do you need to tumble the first stage when you're doing really nicely rounded beach rocks? So my answer to that is, first off, they're not usually all that perfect. Take this one for example. There's cracks and holes and dents and stuff all over the place. Not so many cracks in this one, but a lot of them have pretty rough spots in them. This one I can feel a lot of these little spots. I don't know if you'll be able to see them, but they're there. So you want to tumble some of that stuff out of them anyhow, or at least I do. This is the way I like to tumble them. I like them to be as perfect as possible. A lot of people aren't nearly as fussy about this as I am, but if you want them really perfect like I do mine, you're going to want to tumble them in the first stage. Here's two that look pretty perfect. I don't see any holes in them or anything, so I took a little video of these and pictures with my little magnifier, or my little microscope, the digital microscope that I have. I want to look at them after they get out of the first stage. So we'll compare and see if they get any smoother. And I think they will. These could probably skip the first stage. I never skip the first stage though. So I'm not saying you have to do this, but I do want to look and see how much different they are after the first stage. And I don't think it hurts. It's only going to be a week for these two, so it's not that big of a deal. So anyhow, these are all going in here. I'm not going to end up tumbling all these because they're not all going to fit, but they will get smaller as we go. So I'm just going to pick a few and put them in here. I'm going to avoid the really big ones. These would be better off in a larger barrel. I could do them in this barrel, but I think I'll just avoid them and do some smaller ones. So I'm going to load this up. And I want this about 3/4 full. More full is better, as long as the little motor can handle it, and so far it's been doing fine. But I want it filled pretty full just because it turns so fast. That helps cush them a little bit more. It's maybe one too many. So they're not banging around in there quite so much. So I'm going to put water in here, and they're going to go just a little bit below the top of the rocks. So that's maybe a little bit too much actually. Some people put in more water than I do. It's kind of hard to show this when I tip it up. Of course, the water goes to the bottom, but it's about, I don't know, from the highest rocks, maybe down 3/4 of an inch or an inch. Half inch would be okay. It's not rocket science. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm using 4670 silicon carbide for this. You could use other grits. You could use 80 grit or 6090. Those would all be fine. I'm going to put in 3 tablespoons. And then from my past tumble in this, I've realized that you only need to run this for 3 days at a time. With a slower tumbler, I usually run it for a week at a time. But on this one, in 3 days, the grit's all ground down pretty good. So I felt the grit after 3 days, and it doesn't feel gritty anymore. It just feels smooth. So it's all used up at that point. So I get this lid on tight, put that on there, put it on the base, and I'm going to run this for, like I said, 3 days. I don't usually use this little 3-day thing. I just come back in 3 days and take it off. I'm always going to keep this on speed 1. I've decided the other speeds are way too fast for anything, so through this whole process I'm going to keep this on the slowest speed. So we'll come back in 3 days and see how things are going. Okay, let's see how these look after 3 days. If you're wondering what to do with the slurry, I've got a video I can link here to show you how I dispose of that. All right, now what I'm going to do is just go through each rock and kind of dry it off and inspect it and see if it's ready to go on to the next stage. Usually I wear my glasses when I'm doing this so I can see what I'm doing. So this one's smooth all the way around. I don't see any cracks or holes or anything, so that's all done. A lot of people don't seem to understand that in the first stage, you don't have to do every rock for the same amount of time. It's not like the first stage takes a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or anything. It takes as long as it takes for each individual rock to get done. So I'm just going through and I'm feeling them, I'm looking at them, I can feel a little bit of a dent right there. That'll be done next week, but not next week, in 3 more days I should say. With other tumblers I go a week at a time, but with this one it's so fast. Oh, this has big dents in it. It's so fast that I just run it 3 days at a time. So I'm seeing holes, cracks. That's going to go for more time. This looks like maybe a shallow crack, like a spall it's called. So I might put that in for, yeah, maybe not. I think that one's done. So just go through each one of these and then I'm just going to replace them. Any volume that's down in the barrel there, I'll replace it with some fresh rocks. That one's got a little, you won't be able to see a little tiny crack right there. So I'm kind of picky about these, but heck, what's another 3 days? That one might be done. Yep, that one's done. So one of the nice things about beach rocks is that they're already pretty smooth from the waves and the rolling around in the sand. They're partially tumbled, so this first stage can go really quickly. If these were like broken rocks, like crushed rock, nothing would be done in this first time through. That one looks good. That one's not. A little rough area right there. But most of these are pretty close. That's got a little bit bigger hole right there. And what do we have on this one? That one looks pretty good too. And I'm coming back to this one. Remember I said I thought there was a spall? That's what that's called, just a real shallow fracture. That'll tumble off in another couple sessions through this, once or twice through, and it'll be done. So now I've taken some rocks out. These rocks all got a little smaller, and so I'm just going to throw in a couple more to replace what I took out. A couple small ones in there. Always nice to have some small ones to take up the space in between. That looks pretty good. Maybe one more, or a little one. All right, then I'm going to put the water in like I did last time. So I'm going just down a little bit from the top of the rocks. And then we need 3 tablespoons of grit. And then this will go right back on the tumbler for another 3 days. So we'll check back in on it then. Here are the 2 rocks that I said should be tumbled in the first stage, even though they already looked smooth. This is the before picture, and there's the after picture. Different part of the rock, so it's a little bit hard to compare, but on this next one, you'll see the before picture, and when you see the after, I think you'll realize that it really is important to do that first stage, even if the rocks look smooth. That looks a lot different than it did before tumbling. Okay, I just dried these off after another 3-day run. These rocks are finished. Got 5 of them. 3 of them are pretty small, but 2 decent sized ones. So they'll go in here with the other ones that were finished last week. And then these rocks all had some sort of little flaws in them, so they're going back in. And of course I got a little bit of room left over, so I'll put some more rocks in. I'm going to put a little bigger rock in this time, see how that one does. And I still have some room, so let's see what else I can squeeze in there. That one, maybe that one. Still a couple little ones I'll throw in there. All right, so just like before, I'm gonna put in some water. And I'm just gonna repeat the same process every week. This is the exact same thing I did last time. I keep saying every week because I'm used to doing that, every 3 days. Here's the 4670 grit again, still in the coarse stage, so 3 tablespoons of this. And one of the questions I get asked a lot is if you can reuse grit. The grit wears down. Silicon carbide grit breaks down into smaller and smaller particles. So at the end of 3 days, the particles are so small that they really don't cut anymore. They're just little itty bitty things that are going to leave little itty bitty scratches. So you can't reuse it. Another thing people want to do is use beach sand instead of grit because it's a lot cheaper. But the beach sand is going to be about the same hardness as the rocks. So some of these rocks will be like Mohs 7 on the Mohs mineral scale of hardness. There'll be a 7 or maybe a 6. Some of them might even be 5s. Sand is going to be around a 7 also, I think. I think it's mostly quartz, and quartz is 7. So if you've got things that are of the same hardness rubbing together, the sand's just going to get worn away really quickly down to nothing in just no time at all, and it's not going to do much damage to the rocks. This silicon carbide is 9 on the Mohs scale. It's a lot harder than sand. It's really sharp. It really does a good job. So don't use sand. You'd be forever doing it that way. So we're going to put this on for another 3 days, and we'll see you then. All right, this time we got all these that are done. This rock is really interesting to me. It kind of looks like sandstone in the pattern that's on it, but it's much smoother than sandstone, so really hoping that one turns out well. It's just a unique rock. So these are all ready to go to the next stage, so I'll put them with the other ones. And then I don't quite have enough to fill the barrel enough yet, so I'm gonna probably go one more run on this. These could all use a little more. And I need to point out that I'm really, really picky about my rocks. I like every little flaw out of them, so this just has a couple little tiny things that are wrong with it, and there's a couple others like that also. You don't have to run them quite as long as I am, but if you want them to be perfectly smooth and no little holes in them, then this is the way to do it. And if you don't mind so much, then put in some with little holes in them. It's your rocks, do them the way you like. So I'm just throwing in a few more here, and put water and grit in that, put it on the tumbler for 3 more days. I just rinsed the rocks off after the 4th 3-day run, so they've been going for 12 days total. These are done. These are going to go into the next batch because I think I've got enough done here to fill the barrel up for the 2nd stage. So these are all the ones done after 12 days. It's one of the advantages of beach rocks. They just get done so quickly in the 1st stage. One of my videos, I think I went 17 weeks in just the 1st stage. These weren't beach rocks and they were in a slower tumbler. But this is pretty quick. Doesn't get much quicker than this. So those all go in there. And I'm about that full. Maybe a little more than I should have in there, but I think it'll be okay. So I'm going to put some ceramic media in here. So ceramic media, you can use plastic or ceramic. I like ceramic. But either one is going to cushion the rock some. Plastic obviously is softer than ceramic. But the idea is you want it in all the little nooks and crannies so they're not banging around. Kind of flows a little better in there. So got about there. We're going for about 3/4 full. Something like that. Doesn't have to be perfect. So got my ceramics. We're going to put some water in. And the water, we're going to go just below the top of everything there. I'm looking down here to see where it's coming out. It's peeking out down there now. So I've got water just down a little bit ways, maybe a ½ inch from the top. And then I'm going to use 3 tablespoons of, I've got 220 this time. Sometimes I use 120, 220. It's a little coarser. This is 220. I really haven't noticed any difference between the two when it comes to tumbling, so I grabbed 220 this time, so that's what I'm using. Alright, so those are going to go on the tumbler at the slowest speed still. I'm going to use the slowest speed throughout the whole process, and they're going to be on for 1 week. I might be able to get away with less than 1 week since this is going so fast, but going a little longer isn't going to hurt anything. It breaks the grit down a little more, so by the end of a week this is going to be very, very fine grit. It might even start polishing just a little tiny bit. Probably not, but we might not be able to see it, but it's that finer stuff's just taking it to the next stage a little bit more, so it doesn't hurt to go a little longer. So we'll check it back in on this in a week. Here we have a slight change of plans. This has only been in for 6 days, not 7 days like I originally planned. We're going down to visit my daughter and son-in-law and grandson, and we have to leave a day early. So this is getting taken off a day early. I did rinse these a little bit more than what I showed you. I dumped about 3 of these barrels of water on, switched around with my hand, made sure I got as much as I could off, and then I put it under the sink and rinsed it some more. So you want to make sure this is really clean before you go to the next step. So, oh, and I also added just a small handful of more ceramics in there because it looked like it was, I don't know, I don't think it wore away too much, but it looked a little bit low, and I just want to make sure there's enough in there to cushion it with that. The fast speed of this tumbler. So I'm pouring water in. I can see the water down there right now. So it's down just a little bit below the surface there, maybe a half an inch or so. And then I'm going to put in 3 tablespoons of 500 aluminum oxide. I like to switch to aluminum oxide at this point because it's better at polishing, and I'm kind of going into the polishing stage now. I've got one more step after this, which is the actual polish, which is even finer than this, a lot finer than this. But this gets it going in the right direction. So we're just going to put the lid on here, and I'm going to throw this on for 10 days this time. Once again, that's probably more than I need to do, but I'd rather, after all the time you put into this, what's a few more days. So I go 10 days, and the next stage I'll go even a little bit longer. So see you in 10 days. Probably seems like just a second to you, but it's been 10 days for me. I just rinsed these off again. I already have water in here because I didn't want them to dry out between stages while I was setting things up here. I'm going to do an optional step of burnishing. That's what people call it. It's really just a good scrubbing. I'm going to put 2 tablespoons of borax in here. Some people use shaved ivory soap. What you want is something in there to kind of thicken the slurry up a little bit and cushion things, and maybe give it a little washing too. So all I've got is the rocks, the ceramics, water, and borax. There's no polish in here yet. And I'm going to run this overnight. It's about, I don't need to run it overnight, you know, several hours would probably be enough. But it's, I think it's after 10 o'clock at night right now, so I'm going to bed pretty soon. So I'll just check this in the morning, and in the morning I'll add polish. So we'll see you then. It's the next day now, and I just wanted to say one more thing about the wash stage I just did. It's most important to do that before the polish stage, but it sure doesn't hurt to do it between all stages. I usually just do it between the polish stage, but if you're really worried about your rocks, never a bad idea. You'd be surprised how dirty the water is that comes out of this. I just washed it in the sink and just rinsed it out, and I don't usually put grit down my sink, but this should be a very, very small amount, and then the water comes out kind of dirty looking, so it does do some good. One of the things you're not supposed to do is dry the rocks off in between stages, but I thought you might want to see how one looks, so I'm cheating a little bit. It's most important not to dry them off when you have cracks and stuff in them. So this one's not cracked or anything, and it's got a little bit of a polish. That's completely dry. And I hope you can see a little bit of light reflecting off it. So that tells me I probably went longer than I needed to in that last stage. But hey, it's getting my rocks polished, and that's a good thing. So anyhow, this is the final stage. We're going to put water in just like we did before. Oh, before I do that, another thing that I noticed is that these ceramics are breaking more than they usually do. There's always a few little broken, the smallest ones kind of break a little bit. And this time I noticed that in this stage and the last stage, there was way more little broken ones in here than there usually are because this is spinning so fast. So I don't usually have to add ceramics, but with this fast spinning thing, I do. These have gone through polish before, so these went through a whole batch of rocks and they came out and they're shiny and polished. You don't want to put fresh ceramics in. But with this thing going so fast, I'm just a little paranoid about having too much motion in there and having the rocks bang around, so I'm just putting in a little bit more of that. And then we're going to put some water in, just up to underneath the rocks just a little bit. Okay, I think I can see water. Yep, there's water right there. And I'm going to use 3 tablespoons of polish, which is probably more than I need, but it's not going to hurt to do too much. I could probably get away with 2 or maybe even 1. But I'm going to 3. So this is going to go on for 2 weeks at this point. Once again, probably more than I need to do since this thing's turning so fast. But I don't really mind. After doing this for so many years, I have patience to wait, and I've got other tumblers to look at. But longer is better. I would go at least a week, but like I said, I'm going to go 2 weeks. So I will see you in, well, about a second your time and 2 weeks my time. All right, here they are all done. So this was a rock I wasn't sure if it was going to shine up, and it didn't really shine up very well. There's a little bit of a shine. You can kind of see the fluorescent light above reflecting in it a little, but it's more or less a matte finish. That one's got some fractures in it, but I think those are probably there before tumbling. Pretty good shine on that. Nice looking rock. I think these rocks would have gotten a little bit shinier in the Lotto tumbler. That's a vibratory tumbler that I usually use, but they're not bad. They look pretty good. Nice white piece of quartz. So remember, I didn't hardness test any of these. I just picked them up and threw them in, and this is what happened. Alright, so I think there's a little bruising around there. Kind of hard to tell with the white on white, but with this thing going so fast, it's the edges that take the damage from a fast-moving tumbler. But do you see that? There's kind of little cracks around there. Same thing there. I think there's a little bit of bruising right on the corner. Got some pitting in this one, which might have happened anyhow. I think I might rerun these in the Lotto tumbler and see if there is any difference. That one came out nice. Good shine on that. Kind of a little texture to it there. See those little tiny pitting there? Not bad at all, but a little bit. That one turned out nice. At the end of this video, I'll do a before and after slideshow. I took pictures of all these rocks. I don't know if I'll put everyone in there, but the better ones I'll do before and after pictures so you can see the difference. That's got a nice shine. A little bit of nicking there on the side. Like I said, the small edges are what usually take the damage. That's just that one little spot, looks like. A couple more pieces of quartz here. That white one. Like that, just subtle banding in there. That one turned out really good. That did not turn out well. That shouldn't have gone in the tumbler, I'm guessing. A little banded iron formation, or jaspilite, another word for it. Oh, that epidote. That turned out really nice. I love this stuff. That one didn't do too well. This is sort of granity. I don't know why it was in there. A couple of little ones, and another piece of quartz. Alright, if you like this video, I've got a review of the National Geographic Tumbler, and I have lots of other tumbling videos and videos just showing tumbled rocks, both from Michigan and from all over the world. So go check some of those out, and stay tuned for this slideshow because I think you'll like that.